People always ask me, are there any businesses that can't build a forever transaction? And that's why I wrote chapter 2, which is, Are You Ready for Forever? And the main idea of chapter 2 is that not every organization is going to be successful at transitioning to a forever transaction. And there's a couple of reasons for failure that I see over and over again, and I want to help you avoid. The first one is if leadership isn't supporting the forever transaction. So maybe they want subscription pricing, but they don't understand that you can only justify recurring revenue if you provide ongoing value that the member trusts and is willing to pay for. So they're like, just go get me a subscription. I need a subscription, but they're not willing to build in a new offering to justify that forever transaction. Or if the CEO or leadership doesn't believe in subscription at all. They say, well, that's not a very good model. It takes too long for the payout. Those are reasons that you probably don't want to go down this path. Other reasons you don't want to go down the path are if the culture of your organization are not aligned with taking care of your customers' long-term needs. If you do not have a customer-centric organization, this is going to be a tough row to hoe for you. So you want to think about it if your organization is sales centric, so focused on what your revenue number is and committed to quarterly capitalism as opposed to long-term formal relationships with the people you serve, or even if your business is product centric, that can actually feel like it's a really great model when everybody in the organization really believes in the product more than they actually know the customers who are using that product. So these are organizations where, the most important people are the ones that are building the product. I worked in the bicycle industry at one point, and most of the people in that industry love cycling and they're real enthusiasts, racers and mechanics. And they didn't necessarily want to design bikes for moms or for kids or for commuters, people who didn't love bikes, but just actually needed to use them for some other goal. If you're in an organization where the product is king, coming up with a business model around the customer's ongoing needs is going to be really tricky. So the last reason that a forever transaction might not be for your organization is if your business doesn't need sales and marketing to be successful. For example, if you're last gas for 100 miles, or you have the magic pill that's going to keep people alive and it's the only thing they can take, or if you sell your fish at the market every day at commodity pricing and you own a bunch of fishing boats, in those cases where it doesn't really matter how you treat the customer because your revenue is going to stay the same anyway, those businesses, it doesn't feel as urgent to move to a forever transaction. But I will say that those are the businesses that are often the ripest for disruption because those customers who have no choice are frustrated and looking for an alternative. This is, for example, what happened in the taxi cab industry, where for many, many years, most taxis were regulated by the government. And if someone had a taxi medallion or a license to drive a taxi, they kind of owned that turf. And it didn't really matter how they treated the customer because they had like a limited access to that business. When Uber came and Lyft and the other ride-sharing services and circumvented that medallion structure, consumers were thrilled to have an alternative. So even if you're in a business where you think right now, I don't really need a long-term relationship with my customer, I don't really need to build trust with them, you might want to consider what your business would look like if you did care about that relationship.